My name is Kelly, and I am 29 years old. My life is built with that crystalline clarity that only Seattle, with its silver rains and the stern glass facades of its skyscrapers, can provide. I work in digital marketing for one of the tech companies whose lights are reflected in the waters of Elliott Bay. I have no children, and in this absence, I feel neither emptiness nor reproach. I genuinely like my life in its current, meticulously detailed pattern. Work that provides room for ambition, a circle of friends who do not overstep the boundaries of personal space, and the silence of my own home, which belongs only to me. I have an older sister named Madison. She is 31, and her world is Portland, a house with a garden, her husband Jacob, and 2 children. Emma, with her serious eyes, is already 8, and the lively Ethan is 5. They are good, smart children, and I love them with that special, somewhat detached tenderness permitted to an aunt who lives in another city. My parents have also settled in Portland, just a few steps away from Madison's cozy nest, forming that very tight family nucleus into whose orbit I only occasionally fall. Madison's in my childhood was not cloudless. Our parents, as if bound by some unspoken but relentless vow, always favored her. Always. I still remember how, in the 10th grade, returning home from a state design competition with a first-place award in my hands, I, flushed with excitement, was preparing to share my victory with them. My mother barely looked up from the glossy pages of her magazine. "How sweet of you, dear," she said absently, and immediately, turning to Madison, immersed herself in a discussion of a far more important topic. "We need to talk urgently about the trio for the cheerleading squad. I know you didn't make it, but there's always next year. We will definitely hire you a personal coach." Madison's failure to make the team became a genuine drama in our house, an event that overshadowed everything else. My Crystal Award, lonely and of no interest to anyone, stood on the kitchen table for 2 days until, resigned, I took it to my room. No one ever asked to see it up close, to examine it, to catch it in a ray of light. It was always like that. Madison held their attention, praise, and admiration unconditionally. I was just there, in the background, a shadow. When Madison brought home a B- in algebra, it was a cause for a family celebration. When I got straight A's, it was taken for granted, expected, and therefore not worthy of emotion. If Madison wanted to go to summer camp, our parents took extra shifts to pay for her trip. When I dared to ask about a summer program for design students, I was told bluntly, "We can't afford that." I learned a simple and bitter truth early on. I was on my own. This truth became my talisman and my engine. I got into college by wresting a scholarship from fate, worked 2 jobs, and, after graduating, moved to Seattle, where I built my life, brick by brick. I learned to establish healthy, solid boundaries in my communication with my family. I loved my nephews, but my relationship with Madison remained cool and distant for many years. 2 months before Christmas, her call came. It was a Saturday. I was settled in my favorite coffee shop, savoring the aroma of freshly ground beans and immersed in another freelance project. "Hi, Kelly, how are you?" Her voice sounded unusually cheerful, and in that tone, I unmistakably detected the note familiar from childhood. Madison only called when she needed something. "I'm fine," I replied, putting my laptop aside. "And you?" "I was just thinking about Christmas. This year, I want to do something truly special. Something the children will carry in their memories their whole lives. I want to take everyone to Aspen, to a real luxurious ski resort. We'll rent a spacious chalet with its own hot tub. The kids can take lessons from professional instructors, and they promise a special magical visit from Santa Claus. It would be perfect." "Sounds tempting," I agreed cautiously. "The thing is," her voice suddenly faltered, "Jacob's bonus was much smaller than we expected. We simply don't have enough money for the whole trip. I was hoping you could help us." There it is, flashed through my mind. The main question for which this was all orchestrated. "And what kind of help are we talking about?" I asked, watching the stream of steam rising from my cup. "If you could handle booking the chalet, the flights, and organizing all the activities, that would be just fabulous. We, for our part, will cover all the food expenses and other minor costs," I thought, watching the drizzle outside the window. Christmas at a snowy ski resort with little Emma and Ethan did sound appealing. Lately, I hadn't seen my nephews at all, swallowed by a whirlwind of work projects. And then the decision, clear and final, matured within me. "All right," I said firmly. "I will cover all the expenses. I will pay for the entire trip. Consider it my Christmas gift to the whole family." A piercing, delighted shriek answered me. "Really? Oh my God, Kelly, thank you. This will be incredible." Her voice was ringing, and in that ring, I heard genuine, childlike happiness. Over the next few weeks, I meticulously brought Madison's dictated plan to life. Her list of demands was as detailed as a military manual. A chalet necessarily with 4 bedrooms, a hot tub hidden from prying eyes, first-class tickets, exclusive lessons at the ski school for the children, a table at the best slopeside restaurant. I became the shadow of an organizer, meekly booking, paying, confirming. First class for 6 people, a luxurious chalet embodying all the alpine charm, $5,000 for 3 nights. Private lessons for Emma and Ethan, a visit from Santa that was supposed to seem like a miracle. A top-tier SUV, skis and snowboards. Even a dog sled ride with blue-eyed huskies. Every whim was fulfilled. The final sum, cold and substantial, approached $15,000. For me, this was serious money, savings gathered bit by bit. But I didn't regret it. I wanted to give my nephews that magical Christmas I had read about in children's books myself. A few days before the holiday, as I was finishing the last work projects before a well-deserved vacation, my phone came to life again. "I have amazing news!" Madison's voice chimed like a Christmas bell. "My best friend Olivia and her family are joining us. Her kids are over the moon. This will be even better than I planned." My fingers froze over the keyboard. "Wait, what?" "Well, Olivia's family, her husband and 3 kids. They're coming with us to Aspen. Isn't it wonderful?" "I haven't booked anything for that many people." "Oh, I know. They'll find their own accommodation, but the kids can spend all their time together. There will be 5 of them now. And Jacob is so happy that you'll be able to watch them. Finally, Olivia and I will have a chance to relax and really catch up." I felt my jaw clench on its own. "Sorry, did you say watch them?" "Well, yes, be with them while we're skiing or at the spa. You'll have fun. You don't have kids of your own, so it'll be great practice." "Madison, I am not going on this trip as a nanny." "Don't be dramatic. You're their aunt. It's not being a nanny, it's family bonds. It's time to show some care for them. I am not going to look after 5 children so you and your friend can go to the spa. If you need help, I'll happily pay for a professional nanny from the resort. I don't trust strangers. You have to do this because you're family. Olivia and I just want a little break. Is that really too much to ask?" "Yes, Madison, it is." I hung up. My hands were slightly trembling. I stared at the monitor screen but saw nothing but the blinding whiteness of the lie. Madison expected me to pay $15,000 and then turn into free service staff. She didn't even ask. She just assumed it as something taken for granted. Half an hour later, the phone vibrated. A message from Madison. "If you don't want to help with the children, then don't come. We'll have a wonderful time without you." I reread those lines 3 times. Don't come on the trip I organized and paid for in full. The trip I spent weeks of effort on. I typed a reply. "I am not a nanny. I will gladly pay for professional childcare if you need it." Her reply came instantly, burning with cold. "You've always been selfish and cold as ice. We are family. You're supposed to help because that's what family does. Anyway, the children are better off with you than with some strange woman. But fine, stay home. We don't need you." I put the phone down and stared at the wall, feeling an icy emptiness inside. Madison's words hung in the air like a poisonous fog. I, who had paid for this entire luxurious trip, was now forbidden from participating in it. Forbidden because I refused to become a free servant for 5 children while she and her friend relaxed at the spa. My thoughts inevitably returned to our childhood, to that painful pattern that seemed woven into the very fabric of our relationship. Me, the eternal shadow, the invisible one, whose successes dissolved in the air of indifference, while Madison's slightest achievement became a family celebration. I learned to rely only on myself, for my family was never my support. I left and built my life, brick by brick, on my own terms. This trip to Aspen was a gesture born out of love for Emma and Ethan, a sincere attempt to create magical memories for them. But Madison, with her unchanging egocentrism, turned my gesture into yet another tool for manipulation. She used me again, without a second thought. And then a decision, firm and clear, matured within me. The next morning, I woke at dawn and opened my laptop. The cold blue light of the screen illuminated my resolute face. I methodically opened one after another all the confirmation emails, the luxurious chalet, the first-class airline tickets, the rented SUV, the ski equipment, the table at the elite restaurant, the dog sled tour. Everything was booked in my name. Everything was paid for with my credit card. I started with the resort. A call to the booking line, a calm voice, an explanation of the need to cancel. An $800 penalty was charged. I paid without blinking. Then the flights. The first-class tickets were not fully refundable, about $2,000 gone. I accepted that loss too. The car rental, equipment, restaurant, Huskies, private Santa visit, everything was canceled, one after another, like dominoes. By noon, not a trace remained of the grand plan. The total amount of non-refundable losses reached $3,000, but most of the money returned to my account. More importantly, along with the money, my lost self-respect was returning to me. I said nothing to Madison, not a single message, not a call. I let events take their course. 2 days before Christmas, late at night, the phone shattered the silence with an insistent ring. Madison. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times until I finally put the device on silent mode and tried to lose myself in sleep. The next morning, on Christmas Eve, the phone woke me at around 5, vibrating with dozens of missed calls and messages. I made myself strong coffee and started reading. The first messages were anxious but restrained. "Hi, the airline is asking for confirmation. Can you send the number?" Then the tone became more insistent. "Kelly, I urgently need the booking details. We're leaving in a few hours." Then, 2 hours later, already from the airport, "We're at the check-in counter and they say there are no bookings. What's going on?" I mentally pictured the scene, the growing confusion, the bitter realization, and finally, the furious anger. The next messages were openly accusatory. "You canceled everything. You really canceled everything. How could you? You're punishing innocent children. You're destroying the family over a stupid argument. The children are crying. I hope you're happy now." I put the phone aside and went about my business. I worked, went to the gym, came home, and made lunch. Around 2 in the afternoon, I finally typed a short, succinct message. "You told me not to come. I just decided my money shouldn't be there either." Madison's reply came instantly, a wave of explosive hatred. "You are a terrible person. You are cruel and vindictive." But an hour later, her tone changed dramatically. The next message breathed forced humility. "All right, I'm sorry. I overreacted. Could you rebook everything? I'll apologize properly later. Please, fix this." Another message came almost immediately. "I'll pay you back all the money, I promise. Just give me your card details and I'll book everything myself." I didn't dignify that with a response. Soon the phone rang, illuminating the bedroom with its cold screen glow. My parents. I didn't pick up. I knew why they were calling. Madison, of course, had reached them, painted her version of events, and now they were preparing to unleash their anger on me. A bitter smirk escaped me. My parents never called just to see how I was, how work was, if I was happy. But as soon as Madison had a problem, they immediately remembered my existence. Half an hour later, the messages poured in. "Mom, call us immediately. What you did to your sister is unacceptable. Dad, you need to fix this situation immediately. Rebook everything for Madison. Mom, you are selfish. You are a terrible daughter. You are destroying this family. Dad, we raised you better. You should be ashamed." I read them all, and my face settled not into a smile, but rather a cold, detached mask. I didn't reply to any of them. In the following days, through channels of common relatives, cousins and aunts, scraps of information reached me about how Madison's family trip had turned out. Jacob, it turned out, had been stubborn and decided to go to Aspen no matter what. He naively thought they could just arrive at the resort and find accommodation on the spot, but it was Christmas. Everything was booked months in advance. The drive from Portland to Aspen stretched into 14 grueling hours. The children, unable to bear the exhausting journey, cried and fought in the back seat. Madison and Jacob argued the entire way. They had to stop at a shabby roadside motel somewhere in Wyoming with thin walls and a flickering TV. The arguments continued there. She blamed him for the failed trip. He blamed her for taking me for granted. Christmas morning was the last straw for Madison. Gathering the children, she took a taxi to the nearest airport in another town, paying over $400 for the ride. They flew back on exorbitant last-minute fares, scattered throughout the plane because there were no seats together. Instead of a luxurious resort, their Christmas was spent in the cramped seats of an airliner, and they returned home to a cold house, without a holiday dinner, without gifts under the tree, without anything. Meanwhile, I went to the Cascade Mountains with 3 close friends. We had booked a modern chalet with panoramic windows, a huge fireplace, and its own hot tub on the terrace months in advance. Together, we cooked a turkey, drank rich wine from Napa Valley, listened to jazz flowing from a high-quality stereo system. In the evenings, we sat in the hot foam of the jacuzzi with glasses of Prosecco in our hands, looking at the countless stars in the black sky. The air was frosty and sharp, but the water was scalding hot, and everything was permeated with serene peace. No crying children, no unreasonable demands, no family dramas, just peace, laughter, and sincere friendship. I deliberately left my phone off all these days, knowing an avalanche of new messages from Madison and new angry tirades from my parents awaited me. I wanted nothing to do with it during my vacation. On December 25th, towards evening, I finally decided to turn on my phone. It took 5 minutes for the device to come to its senses and load the entire accumulated avalanche of messages. "You are no longer our daughter. Don't you dare contact us again." That was Mom. "What you have done is unforgivable. For us, you no longer exist," echoed Dad. And finally, Madison, "You have ruined my life. I will never forgive you for this." I read them all, and not a drop of the usual pain stirred in my soul. Just a light, almost weightless shrug. I genuinely didn't understand how canceling a vacation I had paid for could ruin someone's life. But that was no longer my concern. It was her problem. I spent the rest of the holiday week in the mountain chalet with my friends. We went for long walks on snowy trails, enthusiastically played board games during long evenings, watched old classic films, sprawled on soft rugs in front of the crackling fireplace. It was exactly what I so desperately needed. Not a gram of stress, not a hint of drama, just the company of people who sincerely valued my presence. Returning to Seattle after the new year, I mentally returned to those angry messages. My parents had disowned me. Madison proclaimed that I had broken her fate, and all because I refused to be used. I felt no guilt. Instead, I felt a strange, almost dizzying freedom. I had spent my entire life vainly trying to earn this family's approval, trying to be good enough, successful enough, generous enough. But it was never enough. They still put Madison first. They still took my sacrifices for granted, and now they had cut me off themselves. And, to be honest, it was a relief. I no longer had to pretend, no longer had to play the role of the backup daughter, the one who always pays the bills but never gets a drop of real attention. I immersed myself in work, plunged headlong into new projects, spent time with friends. Life, my real life, went on. Neither Madison nor my parents made themselves known. This silence was a balm for my soul. 3 weeks after Christmas, the phone broke the prolonged silence again. A familiar Portland number glowed on the screen. Jacob. I thought about ignoring it, but remembered that Jacob had always been polite and courteous to me. He wasn't the instigator of all this chaos. "Hi, Kelly. It's Jacob. Do you have a minute? I need to apologize. For Madison's behavior, for my own, for everything that happened." I remained silent, letting him continue. "We used you. I see that clearly now. Madison created this fairy tale Christmas fantasy in her head, and when you agreed to pay for it, she just kept demanding more and more. I should have stopped her. I should have said something, but I didn't, and I am truly sorry." "Okay," I said cautiously. "The thing is," he sighed heavily, "I finally sat down and really looked at our finances, looked at them soberly. Madison was spending far more than we earn. The credit cards are maxed out. So many expenses I didn't even know about. We are up to our ears in debt." "Jacob, you don't have to tell me this." "I know, but I want you to understand. We had a very difficult but necessary conversation with Madison about her behavior, about the fact that we have to live within our means. I canceled all her credit cards. From now on, I alone manage the family budget. No more spending we can't afford." Sounds like a reasonable plan. "And Madison got a job at Starbucks." I suppressed an involuntary smile. Madison working as a barista. The same Madison who for the past 8 years had proudly called herself a homemaker, posted carefully curated pictures of a perfect life on Instagram, and acted as if a regular job was beneath her station. "How is she doing?" I asked, struggling to suppress an ironic smile. "She hates every second of it," came a tired sigh from the other end. "Complains non-stop. But we desperately need the money, and she finally has to learn that bills don't grow on trees. You can't endlessly expect others to fund your lifestyle." "No, I suppose you can't," I agreed softly. "I'm really sorry, Kelly. Very. For everything." Jacob's voice sounded sincere. "The kids miss you a lot. They keep asking when Aunt Kelly is coming to visit." "Tell them I miss them very much, too. Your parents are still furious. And Madison, too. But I think they're wrong. You had every right to cancel that trip. Madison behaved terribly towards you." "Thank you for saying that. I'll send you photos of the kids, and videos if you'd like. I know how much they mean to you." "I'd like that very much." We said goodbye, and I sat for a long time pondering this strange conversation. Madison, standing behind a Starbucks counter. Madison, forced to live within her means. Madison, deprived of her precious credit cards. Yes, for her, this was probably truly the collapse of her world. She was used to thoughtless spending, to living as she pleased, firmly leaning on the financial cushion provided by others. And in recent years, that other had increasingly been me. And now she had to get a job, earn money herself, face harsh reality without rose-colored glasses. Ironically, this was perhaps the best possible outcome for her. In the following months, Jacob kept in touch with me regularly. Photos of Emma and Ethan from school events, short videos of them playing in the yard, cute everyday news kept arriving on my phone. He never asked for money, never once even hinted at help. He simply gave me the opportunity to remain a part of my nephews' lives, and I was immensely grateful to him for that. I loved those children with all my heart. I wanted to be in their world, but I no longer wanted to be Madison's wallet. I had no contact with Madison herself or with my parents at all. The silence stretched on, and it suited me quite well. My life gained a previously unknown calm, freed from their constant demands and demeaning criticism. At work, I was promoted to the position of senior marketing manager. Management noted my efficiency and the real results of my campaigns. I received a substantial raise and began leading a larger team. I finally bought a new car, having put it off for years, and booked a trip to Japan for the spring. I started allowing myself things I had denied myself for years because that money had previously gone to the family's endless requests. Once, over dinner with my friend Rachel, who had been with me in that chalet, she asked, "So, any word from them?" "Only from Jacob. He sends photos of the kids." "From your sister?" "Not a sound. Working at Starbucks. Jacob says she's furious." Rachel laughed. "Deservedly so. I feel sorry for the kids, of course. They're the innocent ones. But I'm keeping in touch with them, through Jacob." "Well, then it's all good. They have a father. They keep you in the loop, but at a distance. You don't need the drama from Madison." She was right. Emma and Ethan would be fine. They have a father who has finally taken the reins, and they have an aunt who loves them, even from many miles away. Spring arrived. I went to Japan as planned. 2 weeks in Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka flew by in an instant. I wandered through sun-drenched temple complexes, tried incredible street food, stayed in a traditional ryokan with hot springs. I sent postcards to friends but posted almost nothing on social media. I was simply living my life. Finally, not for someone else's gaze, but for myself. My return from Japan was met by the cool silence of my Seattle apartment, but a small cardboard box lay on the glass surface of the coffee table. Inside, carefully wrapped in bubble wrap, were 2 drawings. Emma had drawn our family, herself, Ethan, Jacob, Madison, and, I looked with slight surprise, me, standing slightly apart but connected to the main group by a bright rainbow. Ethan had written on a piece of cardboard in crooked but diligent letters, "I miss you, Aunt Kelly," and accompanied the message with a drawing where a figure representing me was floating upside down under a green sun. Jacob had attached a laconic note to the children's masterpieces. "Made these themselves. Really wanted to send you something of their own." I smiled, and something warm and long forgotten stirred in my chest. Finding a free spot on the refrigerator, I magnetized both drawings, took a picture of them, and sent the photo to Jacob with a short thank you. He replied almost immediately, "The kids will be thrilled that you hung them up." And so anew, fragile but sturdy format for our relationship was established. Jacob became my conduit to my nephew's world. He sent news, school photos, short videos. Sometimes he called and, after whispering something, handed the phone to Emma, who would report importantly on her math successes, or to Ethan, who would excitedly describe a new robot. We would chat for a few minutes until their attention shifted to play, and then Jacob would return to the phone. "Madison still doesn't know we're in touch," he admitted once. "Does that bother you?" "Not really," I answered honestly. "She made her choice, and I am these children's aunt. I love them, and why should they be deprived of this relationship because of her grievances?" "Because Madison was selfish," he stated. "How is she?" "Still at Starbucks, still grumbling, but getting used to it bit by bit. We're slowly paying off the debts. A year or two, and we'll be back on our feet. It's good." He also told me that my parents occasionally ask about me. Mom asks Madison if I've been in touch, and, receiving a negative answer, falls silent. Dad stays quiet. "I think they're ashamed," Jacob suggested, "but their pride won't let them admit they were wrong." "Let it be," I shrugged. "I can't say I blame them." Work, meanwhile, was going brilliantly. My team launched a campaign that went viral and attracted thousands of new clients. My boss took me to lunch, hinting at an upcoming promotion. I was earning more than ever and spent that money on myself with a light heart, on concerts, on beautiful things for my home, on retirement savings, on charity. The funds that had previously flowed to finance Madison's illusions were now acquiring real meaning. My friends noticed the changes. "You seem lighter," Rachel said once during Sunday brunch, "more relaxed." I agreed. "I feel different, as if I've dropped a heavy bag I've been carrying my whole life." Not a drop of regret about that Christmas decision remained. Not a single one. In the summer, Jacob sent a video from Emma's soccer match. The camera captured her scoring a goal, then panned to a jubilant Jacob in the stands. Next to him sat Madison, still in the same Starbucks apron, as if she had come straight from her shift. I rewatched the recording 3 times. Emma was beaming with happiness. In the background, Ethan was running around on the grass, trying to catch a butterfly. They were fine. They had what they needed. And that was the only thing I truly wanted. Let Madison and my parents be angry forever. It didn't change the main thing. I loved my nephews, and they loved me. One warm July evening, at a business reception bringing together marketing luminaries, I was engaged in elegant small talk with a woman from a competing company. The leisurely conversation unexpectedly turned personal, and she, with a glass of Prosecco in her hand, asked if I had any brothers or sisters. "A sister," I replied, feeling the familiar wall of detachment rise inside me. "But we don't speak." "What a pity," genuine sympathy flickered in her eyes. "What happened?" I could have poured out the whole story to her, about Aspen, the 15,000, the 5 children, and the demand to become their nanny, the decades of silent neglect. But I realized that not every person, even the most pleasant, needs to be handed the keys to all your rooms, especially those full of shadows. She expected me to endlessly finance her lifestyle, I said, choosing my words, and when I stopped, she didn't like it. The woman nodded understandingly, and in her gaze I saw echoes of her own experience. I had a brother like that, always borrowing, never returning. In the end, I had to cut off that relationship too. "And do you regret it?" I asked. "Not for a single second," her voice sounded firm and clear. "Some people will take everything you give and still ask for more. You have to protect yourself." She was right. That's exactly what Madison had done. Taken, demanded more, and never offered anything in return. And I had finally protected myself. I set a boundary, and my life, to my own surprise, didn't collapse. On the contrary, it flourished. A year after that fateful Christmas, a message from Jacob appeared on my phone screen. "Emma's birthday is next month. She wants to know if you're coming to her party." I thought about it. It would mean seeing Madison, seeing my parents. It promised only awkwardness and tension. But it was Emma's birthday. Her hopeful childhood eyes outweighed all my adult apprehensions. "I'll be there," I sent my reply. Emma's birthday. I would endure a few hours of discomfort for her. I didn't know what awaited me at that party, whether Madison would ignore me or try to make a scene, whether my parents would be coldly polite or prefer to pretend I was invisible. But it didn't matter. I was going for Emma, not for them. All my childhood, I had vainly tried to earn my family's love. I spent years giving them my money, my time, my emotional warmth, but it was never enough. They still put Madison first. They still took my sacrifices for granted. Now I had stopped trying. I had stopped sacrificing myself. I stopped caring about their approval, and for the first time in my life, I was truly breathing deeply. I had a job I adored, friends who valued my company, nephews who drew me cards and missed me, a life built on my own terms. Madison could seethe with rage. My parents could nurture disappointment in their hearts. It no longer hurt me. I paid $15,000 for that Christmas trip and lost another $3,000 in penalties, $18,000 in total, and it was the best money I had ever spent because it bought me something immeasurably more valuable than any luxurious vacation. It granted me freedom. I shifted my gaze to the drawings adorning my refrigerator door, Emma's family portrait and Ethan's card with his inverted N in the word aunt, and I smiled. Here it was, my real family. People who loved me simply for who I was, not for what I could give them. People who valued my presence, not the thickness of my wallet. And that was more than enough. I opened my laptop and started looking for tickets to Portland for Emma's birthday. Whatever happened, I could handle it. I had become stronger. I had finally learned my own worth and would no longer allow anyone to make me doubt it.